Hey everyone, what's going on? This is Jarrod D and I'm here for another review of Lovers and Friends. This time we're talking about episode 4. So let's jump into this. We started off with Lionel's date with Mike. They had a yoga date. Mike started off the date saying that recreational intimacy is very important to him. I had to look that up, but it's a thing. I completely agree. I think that's very important. You know, like I said, I think in the last episode, like when you're going out on dates and stuff, it doesn't always have to be just going out to eat or going to a movie where you're not talking to each other for 2 hours or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Do some things together. Do different things together. And I think that that's kind of what helps strengthen some bonds when you have different experiences together that you can look back on. They were getting into the yoga class, and the instructor says that if you want to, we can do a nude yoga session. On the first date, I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree with Lionel on that that he probably shouldn't have even put that option on the table. I mean, and Mike, you know, kind of knew what the deal was, so Mike probably shouldn't have even put nude yoga up on the table. You know, just keep it clothed for right now. You know, you're putting them outside of their comfort zone already with yoga, and now you're asking them to go way further outside of their comfort zone to do it naked. Yeah, so. I don't think that was gonna work. That seemed like a weird idea, but yoga itself was cool. But you know, nude yoga, I don't know. Lionel was struggling with the yoga. It was. I thought that would be a good opportunity for Mike to step in and kind of shape his body and help him move his arms the right way. But the instructor did that. I thought, Mike could have stepped in a little bit more, and he didn't. I guess because he wanted to respect the instructor's space or whatever, but it would have been good, I think, to kind of break the touch barrier, get a little bit of physical intimacy. They did have a great conversation. We learned that Lionel loves to laugh. Lionel said that Mike at first came off a little bit standoffish, but Mike rebutted and said that he came to the mixer with a purpose, that he was not there for everybody else, and so he wasn't there to try to set up side dates and stuff with other people. He was there for one of the bachelors that came there. I respect that answer. It may have seemed standoffish to everybody else. I find that funny coming from Lionel, though, about him being standoffish, because I remember Lionel hardly spoke to anybody because he's so shy. They talked about what they wanted to do with their lives as far as owning businesses. Mike got deep about losing his job and not really looking for love in the past, and how he got to a place where he is now ready to look for love. Lionel had mentioned his ex, and this is where I saw a little bit of a red flag, because it's like, you don't tell your ex, who you speak to every day, that you're going on a dating show. Like, why is that information? Why are you hiding that information from somebody who is so close to you? I don't have an issue if you're good friends with your ex, but there was definitely some energy there, and Mike picked up on that too. If I were Mike, I would kind of run away from that as quickly as possible. Like, you got some leftover stuff there. You're not being completely transparent with your ex because you feel like they may feel a certain way, and it's like, well, if you and your ex are not in that same space that you were before, then why do you care what he says? I mean, this is your life. If he's gonna get jealous, then he needs to go. Mike asked if he could see Lionel again at the end of the date, but Lionel didn't seem enthusiastic about seeing him again. In his confessional, Lionel, I just think you need to go and talk to your ex, because that's probably the only time that I really saw you kind of light up with a little bit of a life, talking about your ex and talking about wanting to own, a franchise restaurant or something. So we're going to move on to Dennis. It was an axe throwing date. They were horrible at axe throwing. I remember I went axe throwing, and I've only been once, but there was an instructor that showed us how to throw the axe. So I'm surprised that they were doing like this and like, some weird throw. It looked like he was gonna chop off an ear or something. I was a little concerned. And then they kind of sat at the table and they were talking, And Lonnie was throwing a little bit of shade at D, which is the dater that was on their group date from last episode. I felt like it was unnecessary, and Dennis thought it was unnecessary as well. But at the same time, Dennis previously gave kudos to anybody who would tear somebody else down. So I'm curious as to why now Lonnie shading D is seen as a negative for Dennis. Because whenever anybody interrupted somebody, he's like, oh, I like that. And it's just like, okay, so pick one. Lonnie gave a good answer as to why he doesn't enjoy sex on the first date. I agree. I mean, it's just like, it has the potential to kill the anticipation, to kind of shorten the journey. And yeah, so I get it. We learned a little bit more of Dennis's fears. And, you know, I talked last episode about them not really getting deep and them not really peeling back the layers. I will say in Lionel and Mike's conversation, they dug deep. They exposed a lot more of themselves to each other. And I liked that conversation. This conversation, it was a little bit more intimate, but it was not quite a back and forth. It was more like a double interview. Like, I ask you this question, you answer it, then you ask me another question, and I'll answer that question. And nobody's really relating to each other. I think the most back and forth that they got, or the deeper level of conversation that Lonnie and Dennis got, was after Lonnie shared his rap. And he said, you know, I stay in my lane. And Lonnie said, well, what's your lane, Dennis? And Dennis didn't answer that. But then Lonnie asked him about what he wanted to do, you know, 5 years down the line. Dennis answered that question. And that seemed to be a little bit deeper. But of course, it's just like Lonnie didn't return with, oh, well, I see myself doing blah, 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 blah. It's like, I don't know. It's just like if I ask you what your interests are and you say bowling, let's not end that line of questioning there and then start talking about what kind of food do you like. Like, okay, you like bowling. I'm horrible at bowling, but I once scored a perfect 300 or something. And, you know, like a story or something to kind of go back and forth and build something, not just, what's your favorite sport? Bowling. Oh, okay. So what do you like to eat? Like, that's nice to learn these little facts and tidbits, but to actually put a story behind it, I think is where the real juice lies. And I think that that's what these two guys missed. And so I don't see Dennis and Lonnie being anything more than acquaintances, to be quite honest, based on of this conversation. We'll see what happens, though. I definitely think that Dennis and Lonnie's date seem to be a lot better. They seem to enjoy the date a lot better. But they didn't dig beneath the surface. And I think the opposite is what happened with Lionel and Mike, where they dug deep, but they didn't really enjoy each other, which was kind of strange. To be quite honest, I don't have much faith in either of these connections based off of these dates. And that's unfortunate. Hey, I may be wrong. We'll see what happens. But until next time, I am at Jarrod D King on Twitter and Instagram, so be sure to follow me and give this video a like and a subscribe, and let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below, and I will talk with you next week. Peace.